Hello everyone, today we're going to talk about data frames in R. So let's start. What is a data frame? A data frame are data displayed in a format as a table. So data frames have different types of data inside it. While the first column can be a character, the second and the third can be numbers or logical. However, all the values in each column, all the rows of each column should have the same data type. And we use the data dot frame brackets function to create a data frame. So let's just what it looks like. So if we look at check some data frames in R. So there are some already existing data sets in R. So we look at them. So if I say head Swiss, there is a Swiss data in R. So if we look at that Swiss data. So we see here that there are rows and columns. So this is how Swiss data looks like. There are fertility rates, agriculture, examination, education, Catholic, infant mortality. So, and each row is having a specific information about a specific a place, right? So we can also look at data set like cars. So cars is having speed and distance. Another data set that we can look is empty cars, that is part of our software. So here we see that there is mileage, there's cylinder, there is distance, there's horsepower. So all these for each type of car, for each brand of car. So this is how our data set looks like. So how do we operate a data set? What are the functions and how do we create it? So this type of data already exists. We can borrow this data and convert it into a data frame. We can also create data frames. So let's create a data frame. So create a data frame. And we do that by, for example, we say data underscore frame is equal to data dot frame. So we are building a data frame and we say training is equal to C, and I say strength, comma, stamina, and comma, other, right? And then I have maybe say pulse is equal to C 100, comma 150, comma 120, and comma again, and I say duration is equal to combine 60, comma 30, comma 45, and it closes. So this is a data frame. I've saved a data frame. Now I can look at my data frame, print the data frame. So data underscore frame, and this is how my data frame looks like. I have made three columns with 3 rows each. So I can make a summary of my data frame with the summary command. So summary and data underscore frame, my data set. So if I see the summary, it will give me the minimum, the first quartile, the median, the mean, the third quartile, and the maximum. So it's a 6-point summary of each of my columns. So I can access any of my any of the values using the square bracket. So I can access. So we can use single brackets, square brackets, or double square brackets, or a dollar sign to access columns from a data frame. So for example, we have, if I say data underscore frame, and I say curly bracket, square bracket and 1, I will have the only first column of my data set. And if I can do the same by using data frame, and I can say double brackets, I can write training and I will get the training column as strength, stamina, and other. Or I can also say data underscore frame, and I can say dollar training. So there are three ways in which I can access the column. If I want to add rows, then the function is, how do I add rows? Add rows using rbind. Using rbind function. So I can add rows. So I have my data frame. Here is my data frame. I'm going to copy this again. So this is my data frame, although it must be saved already. When I add a new row, so new underscore row, new row underscore data frame. So I can say is equal to rbind brackets open data frame. Where do I want to add an extra row? I say data underscore frame, that is my data set, and I want to add a new row, and that is strength, and there should be a number because my second column contains number, and comma 100. So this, now I have added a new row to my data. So if I now see my data set, which is new row df, it has 4 rows, not just 3 rows. In the same way, we can add columns also. So add columns to data frame using cbind, column bind command. So we'll add a column to our data frame. So we have our data frame. We know data underscore frame is our data frame. So we have this data frame here with us. And now I want to add a new column. So new underscore call underscore df. This will be with my new column. So I can do cbind, column bind the column. And where do I bind the column? To my data underscore frame. And what is the column? The column name is called steps, and it contains values. C, it contains value 1000, 6000, and 2000. So I'll have to put as many number of rows as there are in my original data set. And if I run this, then I have a new column data, and now my data set has 4 columns. Earlier it had 3 columns. I can also remove rows. So how do I remove rows and remove rows from data frame? So how do I remove rows from my data frame? So my data frame, data underscore frame. This is my new data frame. This is my data frame not found because this capital D. Now it is there. So I have the data frame which has 3 columns and 3 rows. So I can remove, or I can take up data underscore frame new, this one. I can take this data frame, and I have new column data frame. So I can take any of these. So if I say data underscore frame underscore new is equal to data underscore frame, I can take my original data set, and I can say square brackets minus of C1, comma minus of C1. So, and I run this. So my data underscore frame new will contain, I've taken away the first column, first row. So strength and 160 and 1000 is gone here. And I've also removed the first column. So remove the first column and remove the first row. So now it's only this much. So pulse only 150, 120, 30 and this. I can also say that this I can also say remove let's look at it later. I can also say add rows. So how do I add rows? Not add, I want to know the amount of rows and columns in my data set. So I can show dim dimensions of my data underscore frame. What are the dimensions of my data? So it's 3 by 3. What are the dimensions of my new data? New underscore column data. It has 3 by 4. What are the dimensions of my new underscore row data? It is 4 by 3. So this is dimensions. Dim tells me what is what are the dimensions. I can also find out what is the I can also find out what is the number of rows. So n col, number of columns and number of rows. So data underscore frame. And I find out number of columns and number of rows of my data set, data underscore frame. And I can also find out the length of my data set. So LENGTH, length of my data underscore frame. So length also gives me is the same as n columns. What is the length and column is the same. Length and n col commands functions are the same, give the same result. I can also combine two data set bar by R bind. I can combine the data set by R bind, row binds. So I can, if I have the data frame, data underscore frame, this was my data set. This was my original data set. And I can also have another data set. So this was my original data set. So I can define two data sets now. This is my original. So this I can name as data frame 1. And I can have another data frame 2. And I can say that here I can have different numbers. I can have 140, 140, and 140, suppose, just for, and I can have 60, 60, and 60. So this is my second data frame. This is my first data frame. This is my second data frame. Now I can have new data frame, new underscore data, new data underscore frame is equal to R bind, row bind, and I am putting up data underscore frame 1, comma, data underscore frame 2. And I am, so now if I look at new data frame, it will have 6 rows because I have added the rows to it. So now it will have 6 rows. And I can also do C bind. So I can say new data frame 2 is equal to C bind, column bind, and data frame 1, comma, data frame 2. And if I look at new data frame 2, I will have training pulse duration and then again training pulse duration. So what we've seen here is that if we recap what we've done so far is that we've looked at the data frame. A data frame is a collection of rows and columns, and just like Excel. So we looked at the Swiss data frame, we looked at the cars data frame, we looked at empty cars data frame, and then we created our own data frame with the function data.frame, which had training column and these 3 rows of information, pulse column and duration column. So this is how my data frame gets created. I can use the summary command to create my data. I can, if to access a particular column of a data, I can, this column, suppose I want to access the training column, then I can use the square bracket and 1 because that's the index of the first column. And I have the first column with me, or I can use double bracket and the name of the column, or I can use data frame name dollar the column's name, and all the 3 will give me the column I require. I can add a new row to the data frame. So this is my original data frame, comma, combine, which is C, this, and do it R bind. That means create a row, bind this data set and create one more row. So this row is created, and I can also do C bind. That means create a column. So this will be a column. So this column is created. Notice that here I'm not giving the column number because it is a row. Here I'm giving a column name also. So steps gets created. The 4th column. Then, so this was my original data. Only 3 columns. I created one more step column. I can also take away the column. So I took away the first row and the first column. So this was taken away. So only pulses 150 and 120 were remaining. I can know the dimensions of my data frame using the dim function. I can also know the number of rows by and columns by using ncol or nrow or length. Length gives me the number of columns. Then I can put 2 data frames together using the rbind command. So this I made 2 data frames. If I do rbind, then the columns are added, the rows are added. If I do cb bind, then the columns are added. Thank you very much.